What if the moment your whole life falls apart is the same moment your real journey begins? The sun cast long shadows across the dusty platform of Silver Creek Depot as Abigail Nolles stood alone with her worn leather valise held tight against her chest. Her heart pounded with disbelief. She had been abandoned. The westbound train had already pulled away, taking with it her last chance to reach the ranch of the man who had promised to marry her. A man who had written letters filled with sweet promises and plans. A man who had not shown up. Now she was stranded in a place she had never seen until today. The Montana territory felt too wide, too wild, and too unforgiving for a young woman standing alone with only a few dollars to her name. Abigail tried to steady her breath as the station master locked the ticket office door for the night. The sound of his key turning felt like a final door closing on her hopes. "Miss, station's closing now," the elderly man said as he shook his key ring. "Town's just up that road if you're needing a place for the night." Quote. Abigail nodded even though her throat had tightened. She had traveled all the way from Boston, believing she was arriving to meet her future husband. Instead, she had arrived to find no one waiting, no place to go, and barely enough money for 2 nights at a cheap hotel. She could not afford to go back. She could not afford to go forward. She was 23 years old and heartbreakingly alone. She turned away so the station master wouldn't see her tears. But a deep voice behind her caught her off guard. "Excuse me, madam." She spun around and found herself staring at a tall cowboy whose sun-worn face was half hidden beneath a dusty Stetson, boots, spurs, trail clothes. Everything about him said he was used to long rides and harder days, but his eyes were calm, steady, and impossibly blue. "Couldn't help but notice you seem to be in a difficult situation," he said. "I'm quite all right, thank you," Abigail answered, though her shaking voice betrayed her. The man raised an eyebrow in gentle disbelief. "No offense meant, but you don't look all right. Name's Cole Ryder. I ranch about 20 miles west of here." For a moment, Abigail hesitated. Her mother had warned her about speaking to strangers. But something in Cole's eyes made her feel seen, not judged. "Abigail Nolles," she said softly. He nodded once, as if confirming something he already suspected. "What brings you this far west alone?" In the fading light of the setting sun, Abigail told him everything. How she had been writing to Thomas Willingham for almost a year. How he invited her to be his bride. How she traveled all this way, only to discover he had not come to meet her. And worst of all, how the train she needed to reach his ranch had already left without her. Cole listened without interrupting, but when she mentioned Thomas Willingham, something darkened in his expression. "Willingham's ranch went under 6 months ago," Cole said quietly. "He left a trail of debts behind. Folks say he headed to California." The words struck Abigail like a blow. "His last letter came 3 weeks ago. He never said anything." Quote, "Some men aren't worth the paper they write on," Cole said, his voice softening. Abigail straightened her shoulders, trying to appear stronger than she felt. "I suppose I'll find employment in town. Save enough to go back east." Cole looked toward the saloon where rough laughter echoed against the boardwalk. Then he looked back at her. "Silver Creek isn't a safe place for a woman alone." Before she could answer, he stepped toward the ticket window and tapped on the glass. The station master, who had been turning out the lamps, opened it with a scowl that faded when he saw Cole. "What can I do for you, Mr. Ryder?" "When's the next train west?" "Tomorrow, 8 o'clock sharp." Cole pulled out his wallet. "1 ticket for the lady." Abigail gasped. "Mr. Ryder, I can't accept." Cole lifted a hand gently to stop her. "Miss Nolles, my sister runs a respectable boarding house in Willow Springs. She needs help. Good, honest help. You'd have a safe place to stay and work you can be proud of. It'll give you time to decide what comes next." Quote. The station master slid a ticket across the counter. Cole placed money beside it and handed the ticket to Abigail. She stared at it without taking it. "Why would you help me?" she whispered. Cole's voice softened. "Because 20 years ago, my mother arrived at this same depot with 3 kids and no husband. Someone helped her. That's how things work out here. For the first time since she stepped off the train, Abigail felt the tightness in her chest ease just a little. Her fingers brushed his as she took the ticket. Cole gave her a small, reassuring smile. Your journey ends with me, at least for now. I'll get you to Willow Springs safe. She swallowed hard, touched by a kindness she had not expected and was not sure she deserved. As night gathered around the depot and the station master locked the door behind them, Cole walked beside her toward Silver Creek's modest hotel. The wooden building with its peeling white paint stood at the end of the street, dim lantern light glowing from its windows. Inside, Cole paid for 2 rooms without hesitation. The lady will need hot water, he instructed. The hotel keeper nodded and handed them keys. Outside her room, Cole tipped his hat. I'm right next door if you need anything. When he left, Abigail sat on the bed, her heart aching from the weight of what could have been and the shock of whatever might come next. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks, falling into her lap like tiny shards of her broken plans. Thomas had abandoned her. Her future was gone. But a cowboy she'd never met had stepped out of the quiet dusk and changed everything. And tomorrow morning, she would step onto a train not meant for her, traveling toward a town she had never heard of, guided by a man whose kindness she could not ignore. She did not know it yet, but her life had just taken the most important turn she would ever make. What if the stranger who rescued you once becomes the only person you trust in the whole world? Abigail woke early the next morning, the first light of dawn slipping through the thin curtains of the small hotel room. For a moment she lay still, letting the events of yesterday wash over her again. The disappointment, the fear, the shocking discovery about Thomas, and then Cole Ryder's unexpected kindness. The ticket he bought lay safely tucked inside her valise, but the weight of it rested deeply in her heart. When she stepped out into the hallway, Cole was already waiting in the lobby. He tipped his hat at the sight of her, his blue eyes warm. Morning, Miss Nolles. Train leaves in half an hour. Ready? Abigail nodded, grateful for the steadiness in his voice. They walked together through Silver Creek's waking streets. Shopkeepers were sweeping their boardwalks, a milk wagon rattled past, and thin smoke curled from the chimney of the bakery. Morning had softened the roughness of the town, but Abigail stayed close to Cole all the same. At the depot, Cole bought 2 cups of hot coffee from a vendor and handed one to her. We'll help take the chill off, he said. Thank you, she replied softly. The distant whistle of the train sounded. Steam billowed as it pulled into the station. Cole carried her valise on board, found her a seat by the window, and placed the bag overhead with practiced ease. You seem well known here, Abigail said as she watched several passengers greet him warmly. I've been around these parts 15 years, he answered with a shrug. Ranching, horse breeding, helping where I can. Once the train jerked forward and the whistle blew, Silver Creek slid away behind them. Abigail watched the empty fields, clusters of pine, and rolling grasslands pass by outside the window. A strange calm settled over her. She wasn't going where she planned, but for the first time since her father's death, she felt she wasn't drifting alone. Tell me about your sister, Abigail said after a few miles passed in silence. Clara? Cole's expression softened. She's stubborn and strong, raised half of Willow Springs during hard times, took over the boarding house after her husband died. She's got a good heart. And she needs help? Cole nodded. She mentioned it last month. You'd be doing her a real service. His words soothed her. This wasn't charity. It was opportunity, a new beginning. The rest of the journey passed peacefully. When the train finally slowed toward Willow Springs, Abigail leaned forward to take in her first view of the town. It was larger than Silver Creek, with proper streets, brick storefronts, and a bustling depot. People moved about with purpose, and the air felt alive with possibility. It's more developed than I expected, she admitted. The railroad brought prosperity, Cole explained. Farming, ranching, business. Folks here work hard for an honest living. As they stepped off the train, Abigail spotted a tall woman in a practical blue dress waving toward them with a bright smile. "That's Clara," Cole said warmly. Clara Ryder Bennett embraced her brother, then turned to Abigail with kind, sharp eyes that saw everything and judged nothing. "So, you're the Boston lady Cole wrote me about," she said, linking her arm through Abigail's. "Welcome to Willow Springs, dear. We'll get you settled in no time." "Wrote you?" Abigail glanced at Cole. "Sent a telegram before sunrise," he said with a shy smile. "Didn't want you arriving unannounced." Clara's boarding house stood only 3 blocks from the depot, a clean white 2-story home with neat flower beds and a wide porch. Inside, it held the warmth of a place lived in with love. Simple furnishings, polished floors, and the pleasant scent of fresh bread drifting from the kitchen. Clara led Abigail to a small but charming room connected to a tiny office space. "These would be yours," Clara explained. "Room, meals, and $10 a month. Sundays and 1 afternoon each week free. More if you take on music students." Abigail's breath caught. It was more than she hoped for, more than she dared imagine. "It's lovely," she said sincerely. Cole stood quietly in the doorway, watching her reaction. When she met his gaze, something warm and steady passed between them. "Will this suit you?" he asked. "It's perfect," Abigail whispered. Clara excused herself to check the midday meal, leaving the 2 of them alone for the first time since arriving. "I should thank you," Abigail said gently. "You've done so much." "You didn't have to," quote. Cole shook his head. "I only did what someone once did for my family." For a moment, neither spoke. The air felt charged, though neither knew what to call it. "Will you be staying in town long?" she asked. Cole smiled. "I come by every few weeks. And Clara insists I show up for Sunday dinner at least once a month." "I hope I'll see you again," she admitted. "You will," Cole said, tipping his hat. "Count on it." As he stepped away, Abigail felt her heart tug in a way that startled her. She had known Cole Ryder less than 24 hours, yet she trusted him more deeply than she had trusted Thomas in a year. That afternoon, Abigail began her new life. Clara introduced her to the boarders, Mr. Peterson, the bank clerk, Mr. Harrison, the schoolmaster, the elderly Mrs. Farley, Mrs. Winter, the young widow, and 2 railroad workers. Some were shy, others curious, but all welcomed her with genuine warmth. Her days filled quickly with purposeful work, balancing accounts, tending rooms, planning meals, helping Clara with housekeeping, and eventually teaching piano to children who arrived with shy smiles and dusty boots. But every evening, when the day quieted, she found her thoughts drifting back to Cole Ryder, the way he looked at her with steady reassurance, the gentleness in his voice. The moment his fingers brushed hers at the depot, the promise in the words he spoke, "Your journey ends with me." She didn't understand yet what those words meant, but she could feel them settling in her heart like a seed waiting for the right season to grow. Several weeks passed before she saw him again. On a warm Sunday afternoon in June, she spotted him across Main Street as she walked with 2 elderly boarders after church. Cole waved, then crossed the street with a smile that reached his eyes. "Miss Nolles," he greeted, tipping his hat. "You're looking well." "And you," she replied, unable to hide her happiness at seeing him. Miss Farley beamed at them. "Mr. Ryder, you simply must escort Miss Nolles back to the boarding house. We old ladies walk too slow for young folks." Cole's eyes sparkled. "I'd be honored." As they walked side by side, the conversation flowed as naturally as the creek that cut through the edge of town. Cole asked about her work, her music students, her adjustment to frontier life. Abigail listened to stories of ranching, horses, and long days under open skies. Each question he asked felt thoughtful. Each answer she gave felt safe. By the time they reached the boarding house steps, Abigail realized something surprising. Somewhere between Silver Creek and Willow Springs, Cole Ryder had begun to matter to her, and she wasn't sure whether to be afraid or hopeful. What if every wrong turn in your life was secretly guiding you toward the one person meant for you? Summer settled gently over Willow Springs. Warm days, soft evenings, and a slow rhythm of life that wrapped around Abigail like a comforting shawl. Each week brought new routines, new faces, new skills. Yet the brightest part of her days often arrived on horseback. Cole Ryder visited more often. Sometimes once a week, sometimes twice, sometimes with a casual reason to stop by the boarding house, and sometimes with no reason at all except to see her. Each time he appeared in the doorway, dust on his boots and sunlight on his shoulders, her heart leapt in a way she had never felt before. On a warm Sunday afternoon, nearly 6 weeks after she first arrived in Willow Springs, Cole invited her to walk with him after church. They strolled down Main Street, talking easily, his voice low and steady, hers soft and shy. There was something unspoken growing between them, tender but strong, like new roots taking hold beneath the soil. By the time July arrived, Abigail found herself looking forward to something she had never expected to feel again: hope. One afternoon near the end of June, as she helped Clara peel apples in the kitchen, her employer spoke with a spark of mischief in her eyes. "You know," Clara said, "my brother has been riding into town more than usual." Abigail tried to hide her smile. "Perhaps he has business." "Oh, he does," Clara replied knowingly. "And some of that business seems to be sitting at my dinner table wearing a navy blue dress." Abigail's cheeks warmed. She had no answer. Clara chuckled. "Don't be embarrassed. Cole's a good man. He wouldn't spend his time where his heart didn't feel steady." Those words lingered in Abigail's mind for days. When the 4th of July arrived, Willow Springs transformed into a place of celebration. Flags hung from every post. Music drifted from the band preparing for the parade. Children ran through the streets waving red, white, and blue ribbons. The town buzzed with excitement. Abigail had helped Clara prepare an early breakfast for the boarders, her hands trembling with nerves she tried to hide. She had a new sky-blue dress sewn carefully with Mrs. Winter's help, and every stitch reminded her of Cole. When he arrived at the boarding house, Abigail appeared at the top of the staircase, dressed for the holiday. Cole rose from his seat at once, his eyes widening as if he forgot how to breathe. "You look beautiful," he said softly. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart soaring. The day unfolded like a dream. They watched the parade, walked beneath the bright summer sun, shared lunch at the town picnic, and talked to people Cole had known for years. He introduced her as though she already belonged beside him. His hand lingered near hers, never crossing the line of propriety, but always close enough for her to feel his presence. As evening fell, lanterns glowed along the streets and families gathered near the town hall for fireworks. When the sky exploded into color, Cole leaned close and whispered, "Let's get a better view." He led her to the small garden behind the hall, where lantern light flickered across the leaves. The fireworks painted the night sky above them, and Abigail felt something shift inside her. Something warm. Something undeniable. When the waltz music began inside the hall, Cole turned to her. "May I have this dance?" "You may," she answered. He danced with surprising grace, guiding her gently across the floor. When she asked where he learned to dance, he laughed softly. "My mother insisted," he said a man should know how to move his feet with respect. As the night drew on, Cole offered her his jacket when she grew cold. His voice softened when he said her name. And when he walked her into the small garden again, away from the music, his expression changed. "Abigail," he said quietly, "I hope you know how much I treasure these moments with you." Her breath caught. She had known it, but hearing it made her heart tremble. "And I treasure them with you," she answered honestly. Cole hesitated only a moment before continuing. "When I found you at that depot, I thought I was just helping someone in need. I didn't expect to find someone who would become important to me." Abigail felt her knees weaken. "I came west expecting one thing," she whispered, "but I found something entirely different." Cole took her hand, holding it gently. "I think I've fallen in love with you, Abigail," he said. "If you want my heart, it's yours." Her breath shuddered. She had wanted to hear those words, but never thought she would. "I want it," she whispered, "very much." "May I kiss you?" he asked softly, In answer, she leaned forward until his lips met hers in a gentle, tender kiss, a kiss full of promise and new beginnings. When they parted, Cole pressed his forehead to hers. "Your journey ends with me," he murmured, and for the first time, she fully believed it. The rest of the summer unfolded in a warm blur. Sunday rides, shared meals, quiet talks beneath the shade of cottonwood trees. Laughter, learning, trust. Abigail felt herself becoming part of Willow Springs, part of something larger and steadier than anything she'd known before. In late August, Cole invited her on a long ride. They traveled through rolling fields until they reached a small valley where a house frame stood proud and new. "This will be my home," he said, "and I hoped one day it could be yours too." Her heart swelled. "It's beautiful," she said. Cole took a breath, steadied himself, and reached into his pocket. A small velvet box appeared in his hand. "I love you, Abigail Nolles," he said. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, yes, Cole Ryder, I will." Quote. Their wedding came in October. A small church, Clara's joyful tears, neighbors gathered, and a celebration full of warmth and simple beauty. Abigail wore a gown of ivory silk trimmed with lace from her mother's wedding dress. Cole looked at her as if seeing the sunrise for the first time. Their new home became a place filled with love, music, and laughter. 2 years later, Abigail sat on the porch with their baby daughter in her lap as Cole worked with a spirited young colt nearby. The Montana wind carried the smell of wildflowers. The sun warmed her face. She looked at her husband, their child, their land, their life, and felt a deep, steady happiness. She had once believed her journey ended at that lonely depot in Silver Creek, but now she knew the truth. Her journey had begun there, and it had led her home.